You are Locked On Trojans Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right. Wake up. Wake up. Let's get this show rolling. This game's been over for a long time. Holy cow. Welcome to the Locked On Trojans Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. The place to hang out when every game is almost done. Theoretically done. It's 48-0. 6:32 to go. Holy cow. All right, evidently, I'm having the same power issues that they're having at the Coliseum. What I was saying was they tried to get us to believe on the broadcast that there could be a letdown by the Trojans coming off that big win last week in Vegas against LSU, a ranked team. What? Really? And part of the reasoning was, well, this is where the Super Bowl was played. I'm like, you guys are grasping at straws. Nice try there, Yogi. Holy cow. Yeah, big win. There was no chance that there was going to be a letdown. I know the Aggies beat them last year, but that wasn't going to happen again this year. This is a much better team, both offensively and defensively. And we'll get into the details. By the way, I'm Pete Fox, host of the Locked On Trojans Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. We come on after every game and break it down for you. For those of you who don't know who I am or why I'm here, because something new that we've been doing since the start of the year at Locked On. I've also done Locked On Clippers. I'm currently doing Locked On Dodgers postcasts, and Locked On Chargers starts tomorrow as far as the regular season goes. I've been covering sports in LA for ESPN and NBC Sports Radio dating back to 2007. And we're just giving you another voice. Mark Culkin still doing the Locked On Trojans daily podcast. Don't worry, that's there Monday through Friday for you. Definitely a different voice than mine. This one, all Trojans all night long. Lots of good stuff. There was a few things that were maybe not perfect. I mean, this game could have been worse, I think. It was dominant just from the standpoint of the Trojans pretty much did whatever they wanted to do. I mean, when you've got 13 receivers in the game and Kyron Hudson, who had two of the most spectacular catches that you've ever seen in college football last week, didn't even make a catch. I'm scratching my head going, what was that all about? Is he on the S list? Did he show up late to practice? Did he not work hard enough this week? Why in the hell would you not get Kyron Hudson in there, especially like in the second half? Did I say already that they had 13 different receivers catch balls tonight? Like what's wrong with Kyron Hudson? I'm blown away by that. If he's injured, I didn't see that anywhere. I missed it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I need to tell you that tonight's episode of the Locked On Trojans Postcast is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. 48-0 still, about 4 minutes to go in this one. Miller Moss looked very good again. One of the things I like about Miller Moss, quick release and just a very calm presence. Red zone, goal line, close-ups on its face. He's just like, he's just stoic. It's really cool. He doesn't get too excited. And I just feel like he has that intangible that you really want from a quarterback. The ability to read the defense quickly, slow the game down, find his man. And when the fact that he has so many receiving options out there, I mean, obviously they're not all in there on every play, but the fact that they're running all these different guys in and out, these guys all play the game a little differently. Lake Mcree had the biggest night catching the ball for the Trojans, 4 receptions, 81 yards. Woody Marks caught 3 balls for 39 yards. Kyle Ford, 2 balls for 35 yards. Makai Lemon had the 1 touchdown in the air. That was after an interception late in the first half. Got the Trojans to 27-0 at the break. 3 catches, 33 yards for him. Jaden Richardson, 1 catch, 19 yards. Zachariah Branch, 4 catches for 19 yards. He had 1 of the 2 dropped balls in the end zone that were sure touchdowns, or not in the end zone, but very near, was in the red zone. Jacoby Lane, 2 balls for 16 yards. I mean, I guess they're giving these other guys opportunities in a game that they knew that they were going to win. But again, it still doesn't answer why Kyron Hudson did not catch any balls. And I didn't see him in the game. Walker Lyons, a lot of these guys just getting time when it was, over and done with, as they call garbage time late in the game. First catches for many of these dudes. Charles Ross, 1 for 11. Cade Eldridge, 1 for 11. Quentin Joyner, 1 for 9. Jay Fair, 2 catches for 3 yards. And Brian Jackson, 1 catch for no yards. The other big story in tonight's game, running the ball. Now, in the first half, it was definitely a different game. The thing that impressed me most about the first half of this game for the Trojans was the way the first drive, they just marched right down the field. But I guess the sour note of that was they didn't punch it in. That was the one that Jacoby Lane dropped in the end zone. Did that whole, I'm looking away before I secure it, that thing that kids do. Didn't keep his eyes on the ball. So the drive was spectacular, but they didn't finish it off. Finish with a field goal. These are the kind of things that right now don't mean anything. But later on, next game, 2 weeks, as they have a bye next week, when they're in Ann Arbor facing Michigan, that kind of stuff's not going to fly. Now, Michigan's a different team than they were last year. So what they will expect against the Wolverines in 2 weeks, it's a good question. I don't know. They got their butts kicked today by Texas. So I have a friend who is a big time Wolverines fan. Although he went to Western Michigan, he is a Wolverines fan. I think it's part of your DNA when you're from Michigan, regardless of which school you went to. You are a Wolverines fan. So we were texting a little bit today before it got out of hand, and he was just like, yeah, this team is so different from the Wolverines team that we had last year. But today, the Trojans started off strong, running the ball, 142 yards in the first quarter, 172 at the half. Woody Marks, 13 carries for 103 yards. That guy looks good. 1 touchdown. Quentin Joyner also looks very good. 10 carries for 84 yards. He punched 2 into the end zone. Brian Jackson, the youngster, 7 carries for 34 yards. Got in there in the second half. Amarian Peterson scored a touchdown late in the game. Fourth quarter garbage time. 3 carries for 18 yards. Of course, that's his first touchdown. Jaden Mayava, who got in there after they set down Miller Moss, played well. And boy, is he taking a step up in life, leaving UNLV to come play for the Trojans at the Coliseum. Threw the ball nicely. 11 passes, 8 completions for 66 yards. Miller Moss was 21 of 30 for 229 and the 1 touchdown. So Mayava ran 1 in, a total of 7 yards. Miller Moss also ran for 7 yards, but no touchdowns in what appears to be a 48-0 victory for the Trojans. After the break, we'll get into a little bit more of some of the stuff that maybe, wasn't perfectly shiny in this dominant win for the Trojans, and we'll sneak in a little Dodger talk. just a little bit because they had a nice win tonight, and there's not a whole lot to break down on this one. Although the Trojans are looking good, I think there's a lot to feel confident about. That is for sure. Coming off 2 victories for the Trojans, a big one against LSU last week, and a dominant one today against Utah State. When some thought there might be a letdown, I don't know that that's possible, but coming into a bye, it wasn't like Michigan is next week and they were looking past this team. The defense is good. The offensive line gives Miller Moss plenty of time, gives the running game plenty of opportunity. They have the pillars of a very good football team. So I guess the question marks become, can we get it all together? Can the Danton Lynn defense do again what it did last week? Because that was a big part of that win for the Trojans. I would say they won it, though, offensively behind Miller Moss with his 2-minute drill, just being able to move that offense around the football field, down into the red zone when it matters. So the question becomes, can they punch in these touchdowns when they get to the red zone? That's, crunch time when it matters most. And tonight, early on, there was a couple of blemishes, if you will, but a 48-0 win is still a 48-0 win, and good for the Trojans. Now they're now 2-0, or a minute away from 2-0. I'm Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Trojans postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Trojans postcast is brought to you by Gametime. I am a big fan of the Gametime app, and they've added some things to make it even cooler than it already was. Gametime has new features like Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite events even easier. It's not just sports. Of course, you can go to concerts and comedy and theater and all sorts of stuff on Gametime, and you always get great deals. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of other tickets. They also have the best deals out there, really. They have guaranteed low prices, and they have views from the seat, which is another huge thing for me, because I love knowing where I'm going to be sitting, because I'm always trying to find the cheapest ticket, the best deal out there. Occasionally I'll be like, let's move a little bit closer to home plate or closer to the 50-yard line. But, you walk that line of, well, if I go one section over, it's going to add another, whatever, $50, $100 per ticket. So if you can see your view from the seat, it makes you feel a lot more comfortable about trying to get that deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest prices guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 100%, 110% of the difference. In Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Again, download the Gametime app, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, we are officially in the books. Game 2 of the season for the men of Troy. 48-0. They're now standing down in the eastern end zone, doing the fight song if they're still awake. Probably not very many hangers on there at the Coliseum with the delays, the power outage, the lights. It was a rough one tonight for the fans. Although early on, first half, I was looking at Instagram, and there were people commenting that pretty full. Coliseum there was pretty full for the home opener. A 48-0 win over the Utah State Aggies, but they got out of there quick, fast, and in a hurry when they had the light delay and then another light delay. And by the end of the night. They were just they were done. 8 o'clock start. That's a tough one. Another part of this game that I thought was awesome that I really liked was that Miller Moss and the Trojan offense did a nice job of finding the tight ends. I thought Lake Mcree in the first game of the season last week was great. That guy's going to be a big part of the offense for the Trojans and for Miller Moss. Kyle Ford also had a nice game. Couple of passes, caught 35 yards. But again, there's so many options there for this Trojan offense when it comes to throwing the ball. I am assuming that we're going to see more of Kyron Hudson as we move forward in 2 weeks after the bye in Ann Arbor against the University of Michigan there at the Big House. I hope there's not something that I'm missing here. Zachariah Branch didn't have a great game tonight, but obviously is the real deal and a playmaker for this Trojan offense. And Jacoby Lane dropped a ball in the end zone tonight. So I'm assuming that those guys are going to get a finger wag. What is going on with the damn internet? Damn, it's twice tonight we've bobbled. I'm assuming, say my thought again here before we went to the stoppage, that Jacoby Lane and Zachariah Branch, can we call him Zach? Everyone calls him Zachariah. Is that one of those things where you do not call him Zach? I'm assuming that he goes by Zach, but anyway, I'm going to call him Zach until someone tells me not to. I'm assuming that Zach Branch and Jacoby Lane are going to get a little finger wag and a little talking to, like, hey, pay attention, secure those passes. Let's go. We can't have that happening against tougher opponents. Something that did not happen last week that we were looking for this week. I got this helpful tip from my friend Ryan Abraham at USCfootball.com. One of his 3 keys to victory that I totally agreed with, because I pointed it out last week, is that the Trojans did not get to the quarterback. So he was hoping, as was I, that they would get to the quarterback and get some sacks there against Bryson Barnes, who just ran all over the Trojans last year at the Coliseum, but not so much tonight. The Trojans did a good job of maintaining Bryson Barnes. As a matter of fact, he finished the game running with -8 yards. As far as the defense, last I checked, there was 2.5 sacks, and yes, that's where it ends for the Trojans. Oh, actually, no, they have 3 sacks on the night. So that's good. You know, most of those came in the second half when they didn't mean all that much, as they had none in the first half. So I shouldn't say most of them. All of them came in the second half. Gentry had one, Tompkins had one, and then Arnold split one with Fountain. So Fountain, no, that was a tackle for loss. Who won the other? They're saying 3 sacks, but I only see 2.5. So Gentry, Kamari Ramsey, maybe they didn't call that Tompkins tackle a sack. I thought they did, but they must have taken it away for him. Kamari Ramsey, another good game. This guy is a total stud, and we are lucky to have him on the Trojan defense from the UCLA Bruins, along with Dan Lynn. So that is a total find, and the fact that they were able to steal him away from UCLA is a coup, to say the least. But yeah, he was breaking up plays and really making life difficult for the Aggies. Turnover on downs for the men of Troy, defense twice. That was nice to see. But a couple of times there, they got down into the red zone and did not finish it off. They did not punch it in. And that's kind of something that they're going to have to get a little bit more tight on. They even talked about it right at the break. So, you know, this is something that they were aware of, even in this game that was never in doubt. Again, it was 27-0 at the half. But Lincoln Riley was like, yeah, we got to clean things up in the red zone. So, you know, the fact that this game was a no-doubter for them, you have to respect the fact that they didn't take it lightly. They played hard throughout. I don't think they rubbed it into their face, but they took care of business. It was nice to see them getting a lot of the second stringers in there, the youngsters to get some experience, the freshmen, the redshirt freshmen. The fact that Jaden Mayava played a good portion of the second half was really nice to see. Again, he was 8 of 11 for 66 yards. He's a capable backup. So that's good time for him on the field to get some experience. Probably won't see him again anytime soon because the schedule for the Trojans moving forward is a gauntlet. Again, I've mentioned it a few times. They are off next week for a bye, and then against the national champions, the Michigan Wolverines. They do hold the crown from last year, but this is a completely different team. Again, they got pushed around today by the Texas Longhorns, led by former Trojan head coach Steve Sarkisian. That team appears to be a title contender. As to whether or not Michigan is, I don't know. We'll have to see. They mentioned it on the broadcast that it is a weird thought to think that the Michigan Wolverines could very well be 0-2 at the Big House after 3 weeks of action. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I think this Trojan team has a real shot of beating them in a couple of weeks there in Ann Arbor. We'll get into the schedule about what lies ahead for the men of Troy after that Michigan game, because it doesn't get any easier. 48-0, the final tonight, beating the Utah State Aggies in their home opener at the Coliseum. I am Pete Fox, host of the Locked On Trojans Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. We come on right after the game and break it down for you. I've been covering sports here in LA dating back to 2007 for ESPN and NBC Sports Radio. Don't forget, you make during the week, if you're a big time Trojan fan, you make Mark Culkin your first listen of the day. And we appreciate you everydayers allowing us to be your source for your team every day. And then right after the game, I come on and break the game down for you. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Trojans Postcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals. My wife and I and my wife's son run a little small business, a pottery business here in Riverside, California. And the thing, is growing. And we are finding that we need to hire more people than we ever thought we would. And we've used LinkedIn Jobs to find multiple professionals that are capable of coming right in and picking up right where you need them to, because LinkedIn Jobs isn't just a job board. It helps you find and hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not looking in the right place. LinkedIn has 86% of small businesses say they get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Trojans post a 48-0 win over the Utah State Aggies. Miller Moss, I thought, looked every bit as cool and comfortable as he did last week. Just really knows how to manage this offense. I think he's got a great arm and a very quick release, and he doesn't appear to be overwhelmed by anything that I've seen as of yet. And with that many weapons, the ability to decipher who's out there and who's available and, check down and find the next guy. It's really nice to see. So I'm really high on this guy. I think the future is very bright for the Trojans if Miller Moss stays healthy and continues to run the offense. And speaking of running, having two solid guys like Woody Marks and Quentin Joyner, and then Brian Jackson and Amarian Peterson waiting behind them. The ability to run the ball is also just a dynamic offense here. They're not one type. They're not a smash mouth offense where they need to run the ball. I mean, you've got 4 to 5 quality young receivers and 2 very good running backs. Woody Marks, of course, is a senior coming over from Mississippi State. So he brings a lot of experience and, runs the ball hard. The offensive line is a little young, but it's done a good job so far, and they're getting better all the time, opening up holes for him. And then the defensive line also did a pretty nice job of stopping the run today. They kept the Utah State Aggies under 100 yards at 87, while the Trojans racked up 249 in all. Again, Woody Marks 103, Quentin Joyner 84, Brian Jackson 34, Peterson had 18, and then Jaden Mayaba and Miller Moss, the 2 quarterbacks, had 7 apiece. As for the Trojan schedule coming up, again, Michigan on the 21st of September. That is a 12:30 Pacific start. You can see it on CBS. Then Wisconsin, then Minnesota, then Penn State, and Maryland and Rutgers. It is a gauntlet of tough Big Ten teams there that, who knows, by the time they get to Maryland and Rutgers, they might be different teams than they are right now. But they have their hands full with Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, to be sure. BCI did not go to USC, if you're asking that question of me. I went to San Diego State, but my mom went to USC 100 years ago for a year. So growing up, I was a Trojan fan. And then when I worked at ESPN LA, just like now, they are the flagship for the Trojans. So I was there 3 to 4 days a week for a long time, covering Trojan football. And now I do PA work over there, whether it's baseball or volleyball, beach and indoor, swimming. I've done a handful of things over there. I'm kind of like the backup to the backup. When they can't find anybody, they're like, "Hey, Pete, can you come do some PA?" I've done tennis. So, when they can't find anybody else, they call me. So, that is my story on the University of Southern California. As far as you guys that want to get into the Dodger game real quick, I think we got a few minutes. Today was fantastic, and I'm really bummed that I had to pass on doing the postcast because I was watching the Trojan game. But a 7-2 win over the Cleveland Guardians, 6 runs in the first inning, Pajes with a home run, and a bullpen day in all to get a win over a very, very good Cleveland Guardians team. That is confidence building right there. Now, the one thing that comes off of that for me that I'm a little worried about is, speaking of letdowns, that we thought the announcers anyway thought that this game for the Trojans could be a letdown coming off that big win over LSU. Tomorrow for the Dodgers, coming off a bullpen game, could be a little bit of a letdown, right? Because there's going to be half the bullpen is going to be unavailable, right? Anybody that pitched today, I would assume, is probably not available for tomorrow. Brazier started. He went 1 inning. Grove came in the second. He gave up a home run, 2 runs in all, but just 1 hit, the home run. Then Robo pitched 2 innings, walked 3, but only gave up 1 hit. That's nice. Trinan, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts. So the rest zeros. Gave up 2 hits, but struck out the side. That's nice in the end. Vesia struck out 2, the rest zeros. Kopech, zeros across the board in 1 inning. And Honeywell gets his first win in 2 innings. He gave up just 1 hit and a bunch of zeros. So the fact that the Dodgers were able to put up 6 and then make it stand up with the bullpen is huge. That's a big win for them. And hopefully tomorrow there's not a big letdown against this Guardians team and they can win this series. I think that would be huge for them. Learning that Gavin Stone is on the IL for 15 days with shoulder tightness, but Teoscar Hernandez is going to avoid the IL with that foot contusion after getting hit yesterday. So that's good news. There was thoughts that maybe he was going on the IL as well. But no, they're probably just going to ice it and he'll be fine. The other question still hanging out there. What's up with Yamamoto? Maybe it's Tuesday that he'll come back as they get ready for the Cubs coming to town. As for tomorrow's final game, a 1:10 start, Jack Flaherty will take on Tanner Bibby as the Dodgers look for win number 86. So there's a little bit of Dodger talk crammed into the Trojans postcast. So a comfortable, nice win for the men of Troy and a nice week off. So we won't be here till, again, the 21st, 2 weeks from today in Ann Arbor at the Big House. 100,000+ people yelling nasty things at the Trojans. I'm sure there'll be a fair amount of Trojans there. I saw a bunch of Texas people there today. Some of my high school friends' kids go to Texas, so they made the trip to Ann Arbor. And if you're a Trojan fan and you've never been to Ann Arbor, I would recommend that trip. If you want to do something cool and spontaneous, last minute, go to booking.com. They're a sponsor here on Locked On. It's an awesome city. It's an awesome time. I don't know how hard it is to get tickets. I'm assuming they're available when you've got 110,000 seats, but who knows? I mean, this is going to be a big deal. Trojans and Wolverines on the 21st. That's going to do it for me here on the Locked On Trojans postcast. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for the comments. Again, I'm Pete Fox. We come on right after the game and break it down for you here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. And don't forget, that's where you find Mark covering the men of Troy Monday through Friday, just like always. We'll talk on the 21st. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.